Hi, it's Dan Clucci here. Welcome to the naturalpainkillerguide.com. Today I want to talk about migraines and the holistic point of view when it comes to migraines. A very basic touch on the biochemistry behind migraines, but also the similarities between the labeled condition called a migraine to many other conditions, and why fundamentally the issues are the same. Um, so if you can treat yourself, your level of health improves for a migraine. It's not only going to improve for a migraine, it's actually going to improve overall. And overall, you should notice fantastic benefits as your health improves. So again, the focus is not just about taking a pill to remove the pain. It's about the underlying faults in your biochemistry, the imbalances, the deficiencies, the toxicity levels, etc., sugar levels, your overall level of health. Now, the patterns, if you like, the symptoms that you get can vary from person to person. In fact, even if you are labeled with the same medical condition, you can find out if you actually go into a bit more detail with each person that they'll actually exhibit very individual symptoms. Um, but nevertheless, the biochemistry behind it all is all the same in everybody. So that's what we want to correct. How we manage the symptoms as they pop up, that's a different issue. But what I'm looking at today is actually why we suffer from migraines, and how we can go about reversing that and improving our level of health to do so. So I was having a look online, and it's quite interesting when you look at the early warning symptoms of a migraine that any of you migraine sufferers out there would know. I'll read them to you. Changes in mood varying from feeling elated, on top of the world and full of energy. So, one day you could feel fantastic and do twice as much and accomplish twice as much as you normally do. Or you might be fluctuating, feeling depressed and irritable. So your mood levels can vary greatly and go up and down. You might have problems, in your intestines. Your guts might be playing up, might feel nauseous, changes in your appetite. You can feel hungry one minute, might crave some sugar, might have a lot of sugar cravings, and eat lots of sugary junk food. Have a lack of appetite, potential fluctuations between constipation and diarrhea. So your bowels are not really working quite right during that time. And neurological changes, so you can be drowsy, incessant yawning. You might be yawning all the time, and difficulty finding the right words. You might have a dislike of light and sound. It might just make you feel uncomfortable. A difficulty in eye focus. Changes in behavior. It could be hyperactive, obsessional, clumsy, lethargic. You might have general aches and pains in your body. So that's something that's happening before. These are all early warning symptoms. So before the migraines occurring, and you may or may not have experienced some of these. You might have changes in your fluid balance, so you might be finding that you're thirsty all the time, and you might have fluid retention. Often people get puffy ankles, or wherever you're susceptible to fluid retention. And so what's really interesting about this is before the migraine actually kicks in. Now, some people on the next stage have what they call an aura, where they get visual disturbances, and I think it's about 20 to 30% of people from migraine suffer from those, and the others don't. So these are all conditions before you actually receive the headache. So in a way, they're sort of saying, hey, hang on, you're on the way to a migraine. Now, actually, by the time you've had those symptoms, you've probably left it a little bit too late. But what that's actually showing you, when you actually look at some of those symptoms, changes in mood, being energy levels up and down, mood levels up and down. As you notice, nothing's quite stable. Everything's fluctuating. Constipation, diarrhea, very thirsty, aches and pains. Now, what that's saying to me, there's a few things there. Um, it's indicating imbalances. Again, all coming back to your biochemistry. When we look at it, it's showing you that there's excess sodium, not enough potassium in the cells, probably not enough magnesium, too much calcium, or faulty metabolism of calcium. And I'll give you just a real basic idea of cell chemistry relating to those four minerals. Um, so inside the cell, you should have more potassium, and outside of the cell in the fluids you should have more sodium. And also calcium is stored in a little compartment inside the cells, and at certain times, nervous impulses, um, muscular contraction, calcium needs to be released from this little compartment to signal a whole cascade of biochemical reactions to cause that muscular contraction. Now, when it's done its job, it needs to go back inside its compartment, and often when it doesn't, you end up with a constricted state. So hence the muscular contractions and the aches and pains, headaches. Don't forget, blood vessels are controlled by muscles, so they relax or dilate because of that muscular contraction as well. So if you have too much sodium outside of the cell, and it's just being constantly bathed in an excess amount, it will eventually start penetrating through the cell wall and find its way inside the cell. So I won't get too boring about it. I'm not a biochemist myself. I have studied basic biochemistry, and I think really you only need a basic understanding of what's happening to see why you're suffering from these symptoms. Essentially, the sodium is rushing inside the cell, and then it displaces the cells, the minerals, the intracellular minerals inside the cell, and they're needed for normal biochemistry, the functioning of the cell overall. So you'll start losing potassium, and sodium will start rushing inside the cell. And when you have an excess of sodium, sodium attracts water as well, so you end up with that fluid retention, which is one of those symptoms, and that's why you often get thirsty as well. So it's really starting to displace all the minerals that are needed for the normal biochemistry. The cells malfunction and break down overall at an organ level or a system level that exhibits in these symptoms. So that's just part of it, and in actual fact, that basic imbalance of those minerals is associated with pretty much every chronic illness that gets worse and worse as we age, or become in poor health. So they're the first things we need to correct. We need to look at our taking in way too much sodium from our diet. It's so easy to do that. We're not having enough potassium or magnesium, and generally often too much calcium. There's a whole other array of things that can cause that to happen. For example, certain toxins will cause that same imbalance to happen as well. Stress will cause that imbalance to happen as well. But we need to correct that. We need to correct that. And also energy levels. When you look at the sugar balance, our brains need to be constantly fed with a supply of glucose. And when the brain is starved of that energy source, as in, for example, often some women suffer from PMS, essentially, and they have the sugar cravings beforehand, just the same as the symptoms in the migraine. If you look at that, it's not that dissimilar. They're all exhibiting an imbalance in sugar levels, energy levels, and the sodium, potassium, magnesium, and calcium balance. And there'll probably be an excess acid, etc., as well in the tissues. Obviously, hormones and kidneys, and overall as an organ, all these things function together to control the balance of those minerals within our body. So, we really need to correct our level of health overall by consuming less sodium, upping our magnesium and potassium from obviously a huge amount, increasing our vegetable intake, reducing junk sugary food. Now I'm sure most of you with migraines have looked at what you might be allergic to as well, and again, that's related to the same things. When you have something that you're allergic to, your sugar balance is affected. You might get the initial high, which is actually the up and down of these symptoms, and then you'll get the low afterwards. You might have that bowel constipation or diarrhea again. So there's a huge relationship to allergies with these as well, but fundamentally it comes back down to the faulty biochemistry behind it. As that improves, you become less allergic to things as well. Just touching on the allergy thing, I won't go into detail today on that. That you may well have tried these, but a lot of migraine sufferers do have an intolerance to gluten. It's a very not hard one, but it's one that you have to be very careful, and you have to be checking pretty much everything you eat. It's amazing how much gluten goes into a lot of products that we eat nowadays. And dairy, again, there's a movement now out there to consume non-pasteurized milk. I won't go into that too much. That would probably be causing you less trouble than pasteurized milk, but nevertheless, reducing dairy and wheat can be a big start. It may not allow your immune system to repair itself enough. It may still be reacting or be hypersensitive, and again that comes back to correcting the faulty metabolism behind it. So I'm just making you aware that the pre-symptoms you have before a migraine, when you look at them, the fluid balance, the being thirsty, the muscular aches and pains, hyperactive, tired 1 minute, yawning, mood symptoms, the brain's being starved of its energy source, they're not that dissimilar to many other problems, and they really are highlighting a fundamental imbalance in your biochemistry. So just to bring your attention to that, and then we can look at how we can address that. Overall, it's going to be a complete program of holistic eating and living to get your health level back to where it is. So watch the sodium, increase your potassium, careful on taking too much calcium, make sure you have enough magnesium, at least a 1-to-1 ratio if you are taking calcium, and obviously stay away from the sugary junk foods and eat more whole foods. That's basic advice there, but it's the biochemistry that needs correcting. Okay, well, I wish you all the best, and look forward to posting another video and hopefully giving you a bit more insight and maybe in what you can actually do to start correcting that. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.